Welcome, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of the Southern Comfort Podcast. I'm your boy, Big Rich.
Kevin Harris.
And we are the boys of the Maroon Bison. We have a special guest in the studio today, Kevin.
Our first elected official.
You're right. You're right. Our first elected official.
What?
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Representative Ruwa Romman to the podcast.
Yes.
Hello. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be
Thanks
here.
for joining
I'm
us.
stoked
Thank
to be here.
This has been a long time coming. You and I met at a Fulton County Dems, a Young Dems meeting.
Yep.
Even though I'm not a Young Dem anymore.
It's okay. We love the support.
I'm now 40, so I think it may be 40 or 42, but
Yeah. That's
No.
usually the cutoff.
It depends. 36 or 40. Depends on national versus local.
yeah. So, I was once the YDG president at a time in my life.
Wow.
Love it.
Yeah.
Listen, keep coming back. Keep giving the support. So
What was it, manuals? And I think I was bringing Christian, and Ebenezer said he was there. So saw the representative there, and I had seen you previously do I guess you were doing a show with Josh McLaurin.
but yeah, the one's on fire. It's been fun.
And you guys, well, you yourself were very entertaining. I was like, I like her. I need to meet her.
Thank you.
And so-
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Here you are, chilling with the boys. Glad to have you. You're a good text buddy.
I try.
We text a lot.
I'm terrible though. Sometimes I just forget to respond, and then a week later I'll pop up.
No.
Sometimes months later. It depends. Sometimes I'll get a bunch of them all at once. So you'll get response if you're listening to this and you haven't. I got a text back from you, bump it kind of thing.
Yeah. And sometimes I just leave it unread so I remember. It's not something like that's not something I can deal with right now or answer your question right now. So I leave it unread.
Yeah.
So like 4 days later when I get to it, they just get a random response. But like I see them.
Oh, it's bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, there's some I think that are like 6 months old because it just batches. Sometimes you'll just get a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right.
How many unread messages do you have?
I don't want to talk about it. It's like 200.
Well, let me
I don't
tell
wanna
you
talk
this.
about
Here's what I do know though. If you text me, I will see it. I'll get back to you eventually.
Yeah.
But you absolutely will not hear from me if you leave a voicemail.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah. I mean, it depends. I had 77
unread messages.
unread messages.
Cannot. Let me see. I don't know how much I got. I don't know. Yeah, I think I have
And
I have 65.
I did try to, so I was actually on the plane. There's actually down to 164. Whenever I'm confined, I try to get through them.
so on this phone, I have 77. On this phone, however, it says 999 plus.
Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
I don't.
Nope.
I don't even know what number that is. For that.
That stresses.
Yeah.
The thing is, I used to be an inbox 0 person.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I was one of
never
those
that
people.
Yeah.
And this really stresses me out. It's become a real thing in my life
Yeah,
where I'm
no.
trying to do inbox management.
Yeah.
The person I've tried, my wife is definitely that person. Whatever.
I'm better on email. I go through all my emails at least every day.
How many email accounts do you have?
5.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, across 5 accounts. I try to go through them all. Yeah. Look, I'll respond to your email before your voice message. Put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, look, speaking of emails, so we get, especially during session, we get a lot of them, right? Our inboxes get flooded. And so my thing is I try to respond to all of them before the next session. But recently, IT was doing something on my computer and they looked and they go, why do you have so many emails? And I go, because I'm trying to respond to them eventually. And he goes, do what your colleagues do and just delete all of them. And I was so concerned. I just feel like and even if it's a form email, just send people a response. I don't know. It's fine.
Well,
It's fine.
explains a lot of what's going on in the state legislature.
Okay, in our defense, we don't get staff. I fundraise to keep at least one staffer, and we share one admin between 8 of us. There's no way our poor admin's going to be able to get through 8 people's inboxes.
And that was one of the things I wanted to
can't talk about
people
it,
too,
but
because I don't think they really
Understand.
They did, What at the state rep level, the amount of responsibility that you guys have versus the infrastructure that's there to actually help you.
Not ideal.
So before we get started, how much of our show have you been listening to?
So I run very slowly, but I am a runner.
Okay.
And so I try to do a sort of a playlist of podcasts when I run, and y'all's is actually one of them ever since we met, and you've been sending it to me.
Okay.
I'm definitely not, to be clear, I'm not caught up. Absolutely not. I do not run that much, but I do try to like listen to some.
We appreciate
and
it.
so it's been cool to hear about politics from y'all's perspective, because, you know, I grew up around the, you know, first campaign I did was 2014. I know we'll talk more about that, but you know, it's just, yeah, I know. So it's interesting to think about.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into it, right? Like, your personal story, right? Like, tell folks, you know, the origin of Ruwa. Where are you from?
Yeah. Yeah. So I am the granddaughter of what's called Nakba survivors. Both sets of my grandparents were exiled from their homes in 1948 from Palestine. We settled in Jordan. And so that is where my parents were born. That's where I was born. I actually moved here when I was 8 years old. I used to say 7. Then I found out the specific month was August, which meant I'd already turned 8. And so I've lived in Georgia since I was 8 years old. We moved around a little bit between, you know, Fulton and Forsyth. We spent a lot of time in Gwinnett, where I live now. But I would say the most formative years of my life were in Forsyth County.
Now, for folks who don't know,
Yeah.
Forsyth County is, I would say, 45 to an hour north of Atlanta. And once you get 45 minutes outside of Atlanta, it shifts and changes tremendously. It's not metro.
Nope.
I would say back then definitely wasn't suburban. It was more rural than anything. Now I would just say it's more suburban. But talk about that transition being from Jordan, being here as an 8-year-old. Like, that journey itself had to be, you know.
Yeah. We actually got here about a month before 9/11. And so I remember my mom, like 2nd grade, right? I didn't speak the language. She didn't speak the language. It was a tough time trying to pick us up. I mean, there was just all of that, right? But I was lucky because Fulton is a lot more diverse. So you know, eventually I went to Abbotsbridge Elementary and then Taylor Road Middle School. I was districted for Chattahoochee High School, for my dad moved us to Forsyth County, where I went to Riverwatch and then South Forsyth High School. Now, I always need to caveat this because Forsyth, especially South Forsyth, is very different now. I would say Forsyth County is where Gwinnett was 5-10 years ago.
Okay.
But at the time, me and 2 other girls were the only non-white people in the entire 8th grade class. First Black kid I met was sophomore year of high school. I mean, it was just not... It's like, my sister is 12 years younger than I am, which is why I know it's different. But for even more context, Marjorie Taylor Greene also graduated from South Forsyth High School.
Wow.
So she and I both graduated from the same high school, both grew up in Cumming, Georgia. And obviously, I remember when I was younger living in Fulton, my parents kind of tried to do this thing where they wanted us to be proud of who we are, our identity, that kind of thing, but really wanted us to stay safe. And so I remember thinking, oh, like trying to emulate my mom, like, oh, I really want to wear a headscarf. They actually were really concerned. They were like, you're too young, don't do it. I was going into middle school at the time. But it felt like an easy transition of, oh, I'm going to the big boy school, you know? Like, I'm now with the big kids. And naturally they told me not to do something. And immediately I said, no, I really want to do it. But the bullying and intensity wasn't really a thing in Fulton. It was a thing in Forsyth. I mean, it was a whole other ball game when I moved there. And so that was definitely quite the experience, to say the least.
Yeah. And for folks, again, this is a teaching podcast. Georgia is 33 to 35% African American, but they are, I would say, Atlanta South. You will have a lot of in like the northwest area, like Rome, Georgia. That's pretty much as far as they would go. And Gwinnett, right? Of course, the Migos are from, right? So if the Migos are from an area, be sure that it's some black folk.
You know who the neighbors are.
But to be clear, Forsyth was made that way. The black families were driven out. There is a very, very deep and horrible history for my county, which is always something that is just, the way that my life has turned out is just so fascinating. That is where I spent the most formative years of my life, in hindsight.
And how did you all land on that? Was it circumstance? Was it just jobs, employment? Like, did anyone know? Really?
I mean, for my parents, they've never been to school here, so they don't really know. They're not part of the culture. And so for my dad, this was, work was going, this was like right before the recession, but the recession was coming, and he had an opportunity to frankly buy like a really massive house, right? For like, not a lot. To be clear, it was a lot, but comparatively not a lot.
Right.
And so for him, he felt like, oh, I'm getting away from the density. I am sort of doing the American dream as quick as I possibly can. Frankly, you know, like it was tough. It was really, really tough. And I think for him, for him, it was, how do I kind of get away from like going back to somewhere where there's a lot of land, you know, things are slower, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So living in Georgia, especially in that area, what was your understanding of race in America, and specifically, you know, race in the South, right? Like understanding the dynamic and really learning the history of what went on here, like during the civil rights movement.
Yeah, so it's really weird for me. And the reason I say it's weird for me is that when you're Palestinian, there's a deep sort of history between the Black civil rights movement in America and the Palestinian movement. There's actually a global component that we don't really talk about. Now, I didn't learn about that until college, right? In high school and in middle school, it was Rosa Parks was tired and she wanted to rest her feet. You know what I mean? Like when we talk about the civil rights movement, it's the very sanitized, that kind of thing. I do remember, though, it was in Fulton County. We watched Martin, My Friend. Do y'all remember? Did anyone ever watch this cartoon movie? I feel like every time I bring it up, everyone I feel like I'm hallucinating it. But
what movie was this?
It's called Martin, My Friend, where this like kid is able to go back in time. And actually be able to like experience the civil rights movement. And it goes from like real to cartoon. It was I remember that was like the first time that I kind of became obsessed with the civil rights movement, because I just became really intrigued at this idea of movement for change. And then a few years later in college was when the Arab Spring happened overseas. And so this idea of like movements and, you know, working for a better tomorrow and revolutions like really, really took hold of my imagination. And that's when I really started to dive deeper into that work. And when I went to college, the first internship I did was at the Center for Civil and Human Rights. So I was actually there when they opened it. And part of my job was to walk guests around and kind of show them different floors during the soft openings. And one of the people I got to walk through was John Lewis.
Whoa.
And I remember very clearly being like, and here's your face, and here's your face again. And like, I don't know what I could possibly tell you right now that you can't tell me. And so it was like such a treat to actually like hear it from his perspective.
Did you get a picture from that day?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is the one thing I'm really bad about. I'm not a picture person. So at the time, it was actually one of my bosses that insisted that we get a photo together.
Nice.
So I'm like deeply grateful to her for that.
Yeah,
Nice.
I understand that, because I think about all the pictures I should have and could have. I never got, right? Like I look back and I don't have many pictures with Ambassador Young that I should. Right?
You should go get one.
Go get more.
Go get one now.
Like I have pictures of being at his house and him showing me, like he has somebody gave him a nice portrait of Atlanta, and he's holding it up, and I took the picture, like him looking at it in his chair. But like there's nothing of me and him just like chilling.
But so for us, I mean, a lot of times you're staffing and like you're working. So unless somebody just kind of snaps the picture and give it to you, we don't even get to ask because we're working. Because I'm working now. I'm trying to get me a Hillary picture. All as much as she was to me and to my career, letters from her and everything else, I'll have a picture.
But see, there are some that the photographer had took during the campaign that I just never got. Right? There's a photo of her giving me a hug, and you know she don't hug you unless she like you.
You're in.
Right. But she was giving me a hug, and this is when she told me the story that Prince had died, like the same day.
Oh, no.
Yeah. She's the one who broke.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
She was like, Richard, did you hear?
No.
She was like, Prince passed away. I was like, no. She was like, yes.
Don't tell. No, that's.
She was like, oh my, Richard didn't know. I was just like.
And it was, anyway, because I know we're diverging, but it was such a weird day because I remember being at work and then it came on the news and I'm like, I know y'all don't expect us to just go back to work, right? Like we're working for the day. We are
all taking the day.
We can go in the morning. But anyway.
To get back. You know, how the civil rights. So how would you say that kind of shaped you because you said you learned about it in college, or I mean, it's more in depth?
To be clear, we learned about it starting in middle school, especially in Fulton County was way better than Forsyth, right?
Of course.
But to be clear, the like deeper, like the logistics of it is a thing that I became really obsessed with. The tactics, right? The discipline, hey, everybody was trained. This is how they were trained. This was and also the tensions, right? Between different factions of the civil rights movement, which by the way, plays out in movements every cycle, in my personal opinion. But it really was, I think to me, I mean, you being around those people as much as I was, like genuine icons from history, how could you not? Like, how could you not? And some people won't, right? Some people don't care enough. But for me, I got the opportunity to kind of walk them through a place that prodded a lot for them in terms of memory. And I will never forget him pointing out there was a part where you can actually pick up a phone and you're hearing audio from people, right? And one of them was him. And he pointed out and he said, do you see my age in that? Do you see the age that's written on that little post-it placard? And I said, yeah. And it was like 19 or 20 or something. Yeah. And he goes, don't you ever forget that. Yeah. Literally, he said, don't you ever forget how young I was when I did this.
Don't forget how young I was.
Like, truly. I mean, but it's that kind of stuff that you're not really going to pick it up in school in a way that was just very different here. And then, we had this was also around the time of Ferguson, right? And this was that then turned into the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, my entire time in Atlanta was just constantly that.
So what age were you there?
This was college through like a couple years after college, right? Coming up onto Trump's candidacy and first president.
So you're in Forsyth County. Did you have any Black or brown teachers?
No, we had substitutes, but I never had, this was actually always something really interesting to me. Per my memory, and I could be wrong, like there could be like a teacher in a subject that I just don't remember, but I actually very clearly remember the fact that the one Black teacher that I had, two of them, one was a biology teacher, and she was only around for a year, and the other one was a substitute teacher in middle school in Fulton. So it was.
We talked about this on the show. I didn't have one to my fourth grade.
Yeah.
And to your point, just about the history and like how it's taught in school, and you have to do this supplemental stuff if you want your kids to really know. Because I took Alabama history, and I remember like the last few weeks we got to like Rosa Parks and the Civil Rights Movement. Like it's not. Anyway, it's very sanitized.
Yeah.
So talk about the intersection of being Palestinian and Muslim in the South, right?
Gosh. I one time wrote a piece for the Bitter Southerner called Peace Be With Y'all. And it specifically, the whole point of it was that Arabs and Southerners are basically the same. The difference is how they drink their tea. One drinks it hot, the other drinks it cold. And honest to God, I mean this, right? Like God, family, country, same thing. And to be clear, I'm actually a minority within a minority. The majority of Arabs in the United States are actually Christian by a 2/3 difference. I'm like only a third of them, maybe 25% of Arabs are Muslim. And so a lot of them mostly grew up white. A lot of them really grew up like, sometimes in the evangelical community too, which now with recent news is really creating some interesting dynamics. But, for us, one, my parents learned the language. My mom did too, but she was a homemaker. And so she taught us a lot, like she made sure we spoke Arabic at home and that kind of thing. And so that dynamic was really fascinating because the cultural aspect of it being in the South and that kind of thing was pretty much easy in there. But then there was always that othering by people around me of, who are you? You're different. I remember, kids would ask if I was like married at 13. It was wild. I would have people asking me why I have colored eyes. Like I don't match their profile of what like an Easterner, quote unquote Easterner should look like. I mean, it was every comment you could think of. I got. My house was called the bomb lab. I was called the terrorist. I was called the sand N-word. I was called like everything but the child of God. And it was, and I tell people this all the time. The weirdest part about that is that I'm not a patient person. I am not like, I don't take anything from anybody, but there was just something deeply inherent in me. This idea of like, I really internalized the idea of a model minority because I was so visibly not the same as everybody else. That I felt like as a child that if I didn't behave and wasn't at my best self, that I was somehow letting the entire community down. In hindsight, that's insane, right? You're a child. Like I really did lose a lot of my childhood because of it. And there's like a lot of, thinking about that and therapy and whatever. But there is a lot of my life that I look back on, I go, how did I think to treat it that way? Like if somebody said something to me, I would just ask them questions. Like, why do you think that? Is it something that you heard? Try to turn it into dialogue, try to engage with them instead of being like, you're an idiot.
So what would you say was the toughest part of that transition? Like, what did it mean trying to navigate childhood while maintaining your cultural identity?
There is a term called third culture kid where you kind of really don't feel like you fit in, like you're too Arab to be American, too American to be Arab. But what's like really fascinating to me is it's kind of like the air you breathe. You don't think about it, right? You don't, unless you're thinking about it, you don't notice it unless, it's that kind of thing. And so there's a lot in hindsight that I think about, but in the moment it was very much, I've got an assignment due the next day. I was doing the IB program. And so we called it like the pit, the abyss of just like, we're staying up all night and doing work. And so I did find my people. And so finding my people really helped, right? It was other, frankly, like geeks, people who really loved school and loved reading. I love reading. I learned English through reading. So sometimes to this day, there are still words that I will mispronounce because I'd only known them through reading. So like when somebody pointed out how colonel is spelled, I lost my mind. I was like, it's not colonel? I thought these are two different words. It's a whole thing. And so, you have those. It's like sometimes I forget. Sometimes I forget that English is my second language. I wasn't born here.
His language is
it's
like a kerfuffle in the first place, right? Like
yes.
But yes, you kind of learn to navigate it, and and also being the oldest is tough, right? Because first in my family to go to college here, my dad got his bachelor's in Jordan, my mom got her associate's in Jordan, so they are educated, just not here. Very different process.
How many siblings do you have?
I'm the oldest of 4, so I've got 2 younger brothers and a youngest sister.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And what'd you study in college?
So originally I went in to do like psych, and I ended up doing English, philosophy, and politics.
So let's talk about sort of how your family helped maintain that cultural connection.
Yeah.
Right. Like what does that mean to you?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, my mom was a homemaker, so she made us do like quote unquote Arabic school after school, right? We did our Arabic lessons. She, kind of like how you have Bible study with Quran study. So she made sure we went to a youth group at the local mosque, which there weren't that many back then. There wasn't really the kind of community we see today. There wasn't that kind of like organization. So she really took on the brunt of a lot of that. And once my sister was born, it actually became too expensive for us to visit Jordan. So it used to be we would go every 3 to 4 years. Then when she was born, I didn't go for like 13 years after that. And so she tried really hard, like the very loud phone calls. You're trying to sleep in the morning. Your mom's on the phone. If she's not clanking around with a vacuum, and it's like Sunday and you're just trying to sleep in before school. So she tried really hard to sort of maintain those connections. But for example, I remember my husband and I also met in college, right? And I remember being like, I have no idea what even the proper procedure is here. He's also like not Palestinian, so that was like its own drama. It was a lot of fun in hindsight. But, I remember very clearly being like, what do we, what's the game plan here? What's the strategy?
So you graduate high school and now you are applying to colleges. You went to Oglethorpe.
Yeah.
But so why Oglethorpe? Why?
Yeah.
What were your options?
So dad was like, you're not leaving the state, right? I lived at home in undergrad. And I like in hindsight, I get it. But when you're like, what is relax, But I remember, essentially it was going to be either Georgia State, Georgia Tech, when it was a lot easier to get into, to be clear. Like I got in and that says a lot. UGA also got in, much harder to get into now. But the idea was like local schools, right? And Emory. And cost was a thing. And at the time, I didn't know the difference between like a small school, big school, urban, rural, whatever. And, but it was actually my high school teacher's an Oglethorpe grad. And he said, just give it a try. Because he knows that I'm somebody who really thrives in a smaller classroom dynamic. That's why I really excelled in the IB program. I love thinking about things. I love going really deep into things. And so he goes, just like, go give it a chance. And so they had this early application thing where if you submitted by a certain deadline, you could be invited to scholarship weekend. So I'd been touring schools and that kind of thing. And when I got there, that's really when I fell in love with it. And actually, a lot of people don't know this, but Oglethorpe is now majority minority.
Oh, wow.
And it became majority minority around the time that I graduated, as early as like 2016.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a really, really unique place because it's in Atlanta, but not super in Atlanta. This was before Brookhaven happened. So it was still Atlanta. I remember the fight to not change it to Brookhaven. And so that's how I ended up making my decision. It was a mix of, they gave me a really good financial aid package that I won one of the scholarships, and I could commute from home. And, I had that sort of experience of being able to actually talk to my professors.
And did you become politically active?
Yeah.
College, or when did
I'd never done political work. So when I turned 18, I voted. But in Forsyth, your options are, if you pull an independent ballot, there's no one on your ballot. If you pull a Democratic ballot, there's no one on your ballot. I don't think I ever pulled a Republican ballot, and I've looked at my voting history. There isn't one. But I do remember very clearly being like, but there was a sense of part of me that was like, voting is important.
Yeah.
I just hadn't fully created that ethos just yet. Right. And so 2014 was my junior-ish year. Yeah, 2014 was my junior year. Michelle Nunn and Jason Carter had a really good campus outreach program.
Yeah.
And it was like Andy Ratto. I don't know if y'all know who that is, but he came to campus.
No.
And he came to campus and he said, do y'all want to volunteer for a campaign? I'm like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what you're doing. So me and my friends were like, let's go check it out. And so we went to the downtown headquarters back when you canvass with paper,
Yeah.
And I fell in love from the first door knock. Genuinely, I actually really do credit that campaign for why I love canvassing, because I'd never done it before. And I like ran back to headquarters. I'm like, oh my God, y'all, we're going to turn Georgia blue. And everyone's like, bless your heart. Like, you're so cute. I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, what if we could grow our canvassing operation and be able to knock all around the state? And looking around that office, right, no one looked like me, but I knew a lot of people that looked like me that no one talked to. But also it's Atlanta, and the majority of the office was not Black. And so I was like, guys, there's a lot of people we could talk to. At least like when I went during my canvassing trips. But
no,
No, like, you're just making a face. But
I was the biggest Black thing in but I definitely pushed.
But my point is, that was when I started to build this theory of, what if we could find more of us? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I got really lucky, because this was around the time when you started to get folks like Stacey Abrams talking about the same thing. My friend Aisha Yaqub ironically ran in the same district number as me, but just different boundaries. And so, she started the Georgia Muslim Voter Project. And so you started to see a lot more of that sort of community outreach work that was deeper than I think we've ever done in Georgia. But, it was really funny when we won that year. There were still a couple people I kept in touch with. It's like, I told y'all we were going to fight the state blue.
So it's interesting, because we just had a guest on our show who also got into politics because somebody was tabling at Georgia Tech for the Nunn campaign. And that was something that I pushed and was like, this is what I need you guys to do. I need you to go here and just set up a table and recruit. That's it.
It's deeply powerful. I mean, literally just inviting people can go such a long way. And I think we forget that sometimes. And I tell people all the time, I'm somebody who doesn't believe that losses are losses. You know what I mean? Like, I actually think, that campaign we lost, right? I'm very well aware that we lost. But the amount of people that came out of that campaign and became future campaign workers, became future organizers, learned different skill sets on that campaign, really goes to show how much you can do even in a quote unquote loss.
Yeah. Well, and it's in listening to you guys talk about that, right? That experience, where the state was then versus being a lot more competitive now. That's a big part of what we miss all the time in the South, right? The importance of just competing, right? The fact that if you run in a district and you might have lost that district by 14 points, the last cycle, but we cut it to 7 this time, people understanding that that's how you start planting the seeds to be competitive. And, one of the things we talk about now that's concerning to us is, even now, as relatively well, like we're doing in Georgia, there's still a lot more, right, that we need to get done. But, you still have seats in key races where we haven't even recruited a candidate yet. So it's like, well, is someone going to run? Are we going to do that? And it's important because, like you said, like, look at the seeds that sparked, right, in that race. Yeah, you didn't win that cycle, but a lot of the foundations for those later wins came because people ran. That outreach was done on that college campus, right? And we don't organize like that broadly across the South the way we should, right? Exactly. And when people talk about Georgia and the work that Stacey Abrams and so many others did, when you go to other states, they keep thinking like, we just need a Stacey Abrams wave, not realizing that was years in the making. That wave starts with a ripple on a college campus.
It was a piece, right?
Yes.
Like, that foundation was actually laid from the Obama reelection. And it created, it was in stages. Right. People
that was the first presidential I voted in, by the way, was 2012. Sorry.
No, I mean,
I was 15 in 2008.
people don't understand, like, there is a long game in it.
Correct.
And like, if you play it the right way, you know, some things will happen where your time may come quicker than you realize.
Yeah.
And are you able to rise to that occasion? And so
terrifying, but yes.
So after the Nunn campaign, did you become more politically active on campus? Were you part of like the college Democrats? Did you like run for office on campus?
It's Oglethorpe. It's tiny. This is going to be
it's named after the founder.
Yeah. The colonizer, or OG colonizer of Georgia. Listen, it is what it is, right? Like, but it's true, right? Like James Edward Oglethorpe is the person who founded the colony of Georgia. It's called the Colony of Georgia. Okay, like not trying to be woke over here, but you know, but it's the reality. Yes. In fact, our mascot. Yeah, in fact, our mascot is the Stormy Petrel because he wrote about that in his diaries. And so, that's how we got one of the most unique mascots in the country, apparently. But true story, look it up. So, and we were also undefeated in football since like World War II because, you know, everyone was, you know, drafted to go fight or, you know, went off to fight. And then we never had a football team again. But we ended up on like a winning season. So that's our claim to fame is that we've been undefeated.
As you're playing or playing.
But yeah, ironically, this is the weird part about it is that I did not join politics afterwards. Like we didn't really have a college Dem chapter on campus. We did have this like issue where they had brought an international program to our campus. It was a really great revenue generator, but they didn't apply the same honor code and sort of rules to those students as they did the rest of us. So it created a lot of tension on campus. And we were a school of less than 1,000 kids at the time coming, like we were goal is 1,200. And all of a sudden you had 300 new students on campus and the dining hall, like they didn't stagger dining hall out. It was just like a total mess. And you know, obviously there were some people that were racist, right? That's true. But the president at the time very much was like, it's because you're racist, you're uncomfortable. And so I kind of had to raise my hand and be like, no, there are actually ways you can easily fix this of on-ramp it a little slower, stagger lunch hours. Like there are so many things we could do. And so we'd pulled together like essentially like a memo, a petition, yes, but it was like, here's some recommendations and had 100 students sign it. And as a result of that, I'd never been on student government before, and they nominated me to run for student government president.
Wow.
And so I became student government president my last year on campus.
Wow.
Like totally like by accident because to me, it's like about the work and the organizing, not so much the title, but it really kind of represented something for the students. And then when I graduated, a lot of my work was in the nonprofit space. You know, started at the Center for Civil and Human Rights, got hired by Points of Light. That was my first full-time benefits job as like development coordinator. So I learned a lot about fundraising there. And also like some weirdness about like how nonprofits operate. And then that was when CARE Georgia was reestablished, the Council on American Islamic Relations. And it was the only Muslim civil rights like organization in the state that was doing cases like legal work. Because we have Georgia Muslim Voter Project, but that's more civic engagement, like different kinds of know your rights. And they made me comms director at 22. I had like no business being comms director, but I had some comms experience and just enough to get them off the ground. And at that point, I applied to grad school and they knew that. And so we knew it was going to be like a temporary thing, but this was during Trump's candidacy and eventual presidency. And that was, you know, terrifying on its own in very different ways, right? Because I remember we were all targeted. Like I was getting death threats. We had like militia come after us. It was like a whole thing. So.
Wow. So after grad school, where did you land?
Georgetown. I spent 3 years in DC. It's the only time I ever left the state.
How did your dad let you leave the state this time?
Well, I'd already left home at that point. Like once I graduated, we kind of had a moment where I said, I am not commuting and you are moving and clearly further away from the city. We're not doing this. So it was definitely a very tense moment. Like to be clear, very tense. I'm the oldest of four. I'm a girl. Like it was just everything that's terrible for parents. And sometimes you just kind of have to rip the Band-Aid off. And so to me, it just really felt like I had to rip the Band-Aid off. And so at that point, I already moved out. You know, my now husband and I got engaged and, you know, we moved. It was really sad. We were supposed to have our wedding in August and then my grandmother passed away. So like everyone went to Jordan for the funeral. And so we'd done our wedding ceremony, legal paperwork, all of that kind of stuff, or religious ceremony, moved to DC and then came back for a wedding in December.
What was life like in DC? How was that experience for you?
It was different. It was very different. It was you kind of start to really understand what they mean by bubble. But I also think that the part that I really enjoyed was you find your people.
Yes.
And the people that I found were deeply committed to making the world better.
Yes.
And that made it so much easier because you go to grad school and there are people that want to compete for the sake of competing and just they think the only way to get forward is to push you down. I was actually recruited by Deloitte from Georgetown. And I remember one time somebody said, like when we were talking about who got an offer, I said, oh yeah, I did. And their immediate response was, oh, it's because of their DEI program.
Yeah.
And to be clear, I show up as white on the census because we never got the MENA designation thanks to Trump.
Right.
And so I was stunned because the partner called me. I was his first phone call and said, you're my top recruit. I haven't called anybody else, so don't tell them I'm calling. But like, here's what you did really well on your interview. And so like, I learned a lot in DC. And I loved not having a car. Like I loved being able to walk around. I loved that I didn't have to sit in traffic. You know, I could I could read, I could nap on the bus. Like there was so much I could do. And like I missed that part of the lifestyle.
Yeah.
But my entire family is here. You know, all of our friends are here. So my husband and I always knew we would move back.
Yeah.
You know, the pandemic just actually made that timeline instead of, 5 years, it became 3.
Yeah. Well, you touched on a lot of stuff that we talked about, and I had a similar experience leaving here and going to Howard. And one of the things that you said that I definitely identify with is that, there's this notion that all the racism is in the South.
Oh, no.
And it is just in the South, and the good people up north don't do that. Absolutely not the case. It just shows up in a different way, right? And I did definitely have had those types of run-ins in DC as well. But then also just the differences, right? And one of the weird kind of quirky ones for me is like in the South, we speak to each other. We say hello. Well, I might not really know you, but when I was at Howard, it would trip me out because like I'd take a class with people. I don't know them, but if I saw you outside of that class, I'd still, say what's up or whatever. And they just like baffled by it that you speak to them. And it's just, it's just like weird little quirks like that. But you're right. Like DC is this big, interesting place, right? In many ways, but you're absolutely right. Like you can find your corner of people.
Yeah. It's essentially really who showed up to the potluck. Like I would put out a potluck invite and then those became my people.
These are my people now. Yeah. Because everybody there is from somewhere else.
Yeah. So can you point to a specific time in your collegiate life, undergrad or graduate school, that you say really shaped you?
Really 2014 through 2016, I think I think I could safely say that is why I am who I am today. Right? Again, like I said, this was Ferguson. Right at the, a few years after the Arab Spring, a few years after, it was just like one thing after the other after the other. And to be clear, when we talk about like race in the South, and this like jogged my memory because we were talking about how I wasn't old enough to vote for Obama the first year, but I remember very clearly going to school the next day and there were kids refusing to stand for the pledge. Right? Like wearing black, really upset. At the time, Obama got 12% of the vote. This time Biden got 30%, right? Like speaking of change, right? But I remember, but the other ironic part of it is you also had people that were like, I'm so excited to go vote for the N-word. Like they were like, like it was the weirdest, trippiest experience of my life. And then going to college and sort of like deepening the like understanding of how complicated people are just was really trippy to me. But I think it was in that moment where the idea of everything, the way the world is right now is a choice made by bad people. And then we can choose differently. Just really got ingrained in me in those years. And it's become an obsession ever since.
Nice.
So who would you say are like some early mentors that you had?
Yeah. It's kind of been like changing over time, but keep in touch with all of them. So in undergrad at the Center for Civic Engagement, we had something called the Center for Civic Engagement, and the head of it was Miss Tamara Nash. And so she was like one of the first people to really kind of get my act together, for lack of a better word, right? The learning professionalism. In fact, she helped establish the Alpha Kappa Alpha Inc. chapter on campus and had invited me to it. I was like, I don't know if I qualify, I was deeply, deeply honored, but I also felt like, I don't think I should be in that, you quickly learn where you're supposed to be and not supposed to be. So she was definitely one of my mentors in undergrad. I think as I got older, I kind of started to have sort of a group of people that I organized with that also became mentors, but in a very sort of collegial way is the best way I can describe it. one of them is my friend Aisha Yacoub. She really was a trailblazer, right? She ran at a time when running and looking like us was not a thing. She worked really hard. She was actually up against Bonnie Rich, who ended up redistricting the map that drew me into this, which is a whole other story. But, folks like her who are closer to age but have done so much. My mom, as complicated as our relationship with our parents get, really, she made me who I am.
Nice.
She spent hours like educating me and teaching me and helping me sort of establish my personality that, to be clear, is very different than hers. She and I are very different people. But she's probably been like the most consistent one throughout my life.
I think I want to bring it to a close here. I think we like to keep people on their edge. But, we have a lot more to get into, right? There another, levels or layers to you as an elected official, you as a person, right? You started something called the Volunteer Hub.
Yeah.
You understand what that's about.
Yeah.
I want to talk about you deciding to run for office, what that entailed and the pressures there, and really just talk about, since you are our first elected official, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Talk about life in the legislature. Talk about what people don't understand and what you hope they can understand, what they need to understand.
Yeah.
Which are several different things. We like to close out with, of course, the Mamba moment. And I'm going to let you, call out somebody that you think deserves the award.
Yeah. So I will say we have had a lot of folks in the legislature this year. And I will say, the one that has continued to pop up for me is Tanya Miller during the tort reform response. I mean, the way she led that, I really think if we had just let her lead it from the beginning, it would have failed. Truly. I really think that we would have had a little more time to get a lot more people to come around. But that the tenacity, the passion, the consistency of it, that was really, really incredible. And I just keep thinking about that. So
for me, that story you told about John Lewis. So John Lewis, it's people like John Lewis who, have that courage and do that, but then also have the good sense and the good humility, right, to try to pass it along and pass it down so that we get folks like you. So I give it to the John Lewises of the world who are, like I said, smart enough and humble enough to try to pay something forward, and then also to the folks like you who are smart enough to take that wisdom and run with it and try to do some good in the world.
Thank you.
I'm not doing one today. So.
Oh.
Yeah. No.
Are you interested? I'm just kidding. Did he do a bad one? And you were
no,
like,
no. So we don't
I'm kidding. Yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
There's some people that deserve it, but again, right, to be, again, in our minds, in my eyes especially, to be compared to Kobe is, right, someone who dedicated themselves and was relentless in perfecting his craft, right? You can't be perfect, but he damn sure was going to ensure that he strived to give you, some perfection on the court. So, not everybody's going to get it.
Yeah. And it's that striving. It really is that striving.
Yeah. So, we want to keep it absent today, but we definitely want you guys to return for part 2 of our episode with Representative Ruwa Romman.
Yes.
Really appreciate you for this. Incredible story, right?
Incredible.
It's actually touching to me to hear, right, things that I've done in my past and the stuff that I pushed for and initiatives I pushed for laid the foundation, right? Because of that.
Yeah.
You volunteering because someone came on your campus to say, hey, this campaign is going on. You want to volunteer. It's turned you into this.
Yeah.
That just gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Really appreciate you guys for joining us today. Remember, like, subscribe at Maroon Bison on the YouTube channel. At Maroon Bison is our IG social media tag. No Facebook thing, but we'll get that up and running. My mama keep asking about it. When you gonna get on the Facebook?
The Facebook.
The Facebook.
We not legit too.
As soon as you finish chewing on that hot dog.
That's some whole episodes back.
Really appreciate you guys. Once again, thank you for joining us. And see you on the next episode.
Peace.
Peace.